Hello and welcome to Riverside Children's Church. It's great to be back with you again, wherever you're worshipping or doing church today, whether you are here at Riverside House or maybe you're in a community group or a small group, or maybe you're just at home. However you're doing church, it's great that we can worship together and continue to think about Jesus and who he is and what that means for us. But first of all, it'd be great to get to know each other a little bit more, especially if you're in a group. Maybe go around and introduce yourselves. And today we're going to be thinking a little bit about what you're afraid of. So it'd be great to get to know each other a little bit more, to say what you're afraid of. So I have a fear that's a little bit strange, that's recently come about, where I'm a little bit afraid of sheep. In that recently I realised they're bigger than I expected, and especially when they've got lambs or young, I did have an experience where they did run towards me, and I didn't like that. That was a bit scary. So feel free to share your fears, however silly they may seem, or however if you don't like spiders or dark or whatever you don't like, let's go around and say our name and something that we're afraid of, or maybe that we used to be afraid of. Hopefully we've all learnt a little bit more about each other and got to know each other today. If you do want to let us know where you are, where you're watching from, maybe what you're afraid of on the chat, it'd be great to hear from you. But now it's time to have a little bit of a game. It's called Captain's Coming, and you can play that in your group. I'm sure lots of you know it already. There are different instructions that your leader will shout out, and you will have to quickly go and do the instructions. And the last person to do it will be out. You can have a few practice rounds, and so make sure that you're quick at doing the instructions. So some of the instructions are climb the rigging, and you stand up and pretend that you're climbing a ladder. And then there's scrub the deck, where you go down to the floor and pretend that you're scrubbing the floor. There's port, where you run to one side of the room, and then there's starboard, where you run to another side of the room, the opposite side, and there's man overboard, great, where you jump over and onto the floor carefully and pretend that you've gone man overboard. And then there's Captain Come In, where you stand up really straight and stand to attention, ready for the captain's inspections. So hopefully you got some of those. Maybe you might remember some more instructions that you can add in your group too. So you've got some time now that you can pause the video and play that game in your groups. I hope you had lots of fun in your groups, running up and down as if you're on a ship. Now we've thought a little bit about fears, and we've had a game about a ship on the sea. So maybe you can guess what our story is for today about Jesus. It is from the Jesus Storybook Bible. So if you have one of those, you can follow along, or you can stop the video now and do it in your groups if you want to. It's on page 236, and it's called The Captain of the Storm. If you want to, you can grab a sheet or a parachute, and you can play along with the story. When you think the sea was calm, you can have a nice calm parachute that's on the floor, on the ground. And then when the sea gets all stormy, you can get the parachute up in the air, up and down, and create waves. So see if you can have a little go at the same time as listening to the story. The sun was going down. The air was warm and still. "Let's go across the lake," Jesus said to his friends. Jesus had been helping people all day, and now he was tired. So they left the crowds at the shore, and they set out on a small fishing boat. Jesus climbed into the boat to take a nap. As soon as his head touched the pillow, he fell fast asleep. It was a beautiful evening. A gentle breeze rustled the sails. The friends were chatting happily as they headed out into the middle of the lake. Everything was perfect, just right for a nice, quiet sail. They were only about halfway across the lake when, out of nowhere, whirling winds swept across the lake, fierce and strong, like a hurricane. A blinding flash of lightning lit up the sky. Thunder roared right overhead. The storm blew the water into towering waves that hurled the little boat up, 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 then sent it hurtling, crashing back down, down, down. The little fishing boat was blown and buffeted and tossed and turned, back and forth and up and down and left and right and round and round. And in the middle of the storm, Jesus was sleeping. Now, Jesus' friends had been fishermen all their lives, but in all their years of fishing on this lake, they had never come across a storm like this one. No matter how hard they struggled with their ropes and their sails, they couldn't control their boat. This storm was too big for them. But the storm wasn't too big for Jesus. "Help!" they screamed. "Wake up! Quick, Jesus!" Jesus opened his eyes. "Rescue us! Save us!" they shrieked. "Don't you care?" Of course Jesus cared, and this was the very reason he had come, to rescue them and to save them. Jesus stood up and spoke to the storm. "Hush," he said. That's all. The strangest thing happened. The wind and the waves recognised Jesus' voice. They had heard it before, of course. It was the same voice that made them in the very beginning. They listened to Jesus and they did what he said. Immediately the wind stopped. The water calmed down. It glittered innocently in the moonlight and lapped quietly against the side of the boat as if nothing had happened. The little boat bobbed gently up and down. There was a deep stillness and a great quiet all around. Then Jesus turned to his wind-torn friends. "Why were you scared?" he asked. "Did you forget who I am? Did you believe your fears instead of me?" Jesus' friends were quiet as the wind and the waves, and into their hearts came a different kind of storm. "What kind of man is this?" they asked themselves anxiously. "Even the winds and the waves obey him," they said, because they didn't understand. They didn't realise yet that Jesus was the Son of God. Jesus' friends had been afraid. They had only seen the big waves. They had forgotten that if Jesus was with them, they had nothing to be afraid of, no matter how small their boat or how big the storm. Wow, isn't that amazing? What a great story. Hopefully you had lots of fun with your parachutes or your sheets at home or wherever you are in your groups. And maybe now you could pause this video and think about a few questions. How do you think Jesus could sleep in the middle of the storm? Maybe you could think about that together and talk about that. And also, why do you think the wind and the waves obeyed Jesus? Why do you think they listened to him? So those are a couple of questions that you can think about. Maybe you can think about your fears as well and what you do when you're afraid. So now hopefully you've had a chance to think about those questions. It's time to get out our Play-Doh. And what are we going to do with our Play-Doh, Emily?
We're going to be making Play-Doh boats. So we're going to make them out of your Play-Doh. You can use straw and you can use paper to make a sail. And we're going to put it on and see if they float. And you're going to imagine that you are the disciples on Lake Galilee.
Lovely. So you have a few minutes to have a go at that now, and here's some that we've just made. We haven't made the sails and everything that you can if you want to, and let's see if they float. Ooh. Oh no!
It's okay because we have a spare one as well.
Oh yes, nice. Maybe make sure you got all sides. So hopefully some of your boats managed to float and you were able to think about and talk about together maybe how the disciples would have felt being on the boat, how you might have felt if you were in that situation. But now leave your water out. You can take your boats out of it, grab some pieces of paper and a pen, and you can take some time now to think about, reflect, and maybe prayerfully think about talking to God about your fears. So you can write down maybe what you said earlier in the group, maybe it might be something else. You don't have to show anybody else. You can just write it down on your piece of paper, and then you can fold it up if you want to, and you can pop it into the water as a sign of giving it over to God. And there was a point in that story, wasn't there, when Jesus said, "Why did you listen to your fears instead of listening to me?" And so we can give over those fears as a way of not listening to them, and you can make a little bit of a storm in the water, and give all of those fears over to God, and maybe say a prayer together thanking Jesus that he is bigger than all of our fears. However big our fears or however small our boat, Jesus is bigger than it all. So take some time now to pray together in your groups as we finish this session together.
It was really good having you watch with us today, and we hope you've had a great day, and we hope you have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.